Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to discuss something that's very important for everybody to understand. And while we're going to be going through our SP 500, Nasdaq, Tesla and more analysis, I want to just look at this statement and make sure that everyone's really well aware that why Bitcoin dropped yesterday is very unlikely to be realistically El Salvador's glitched rollout. Remember, what you read, what you hear about, and what the truth is can often be very deceiving. And we want to make sure that we always, as traders, as investors, can cut through this information and follow the most important thing of all, the price action. Stay tuned to find out more. Today's video will be going through our technical analysis for the Nasdaq, SP 500, Tesla, Apple, and we've got some great information to share throughout today's session, particularly on Tesla and of course the indices. So what happened in the session? Well, Tesla broke some key resistances. Very exciting there for Tesla hodlers. I'm sure there'll be a few people in the comments down below saying yeehaw and a few other people going on because a lot of people have been waiting for some time for this movement. Then we've got Apple here, 1.55% up. That's moving past the key resistance point. And then we've got PayPal, Facebook, some of the FANG stocks doing quite nicely. When we take a look at the actual indices themselves and we look at each one, I just want to point out one important thing, and that was that we had a public holiday on Monday in the US. So what the futures did was the futures actually rose, and the futures rose, traded higher, came back down, and ended up being at the exact same point that they closed on the Friday session. This is not uncommon when you have a futures market and you don't have the US open. So just remember, trading the futures when the rest of the market is not open, as in the US market's not giving direction, can often cause this kind of whiplash where it just goes back to the exact same open price, effectively fills that range, and this can be all for nothing. So just don't try to trade with trend a lot of the time when it comes to public holidays in the US. It just won't work on those futures markets. They also often close earlier, so be careful of that. Let's have a look at the Nasdaq here. So the Nasdaq negative 0.16% for the day. Nothing much to report. Where the real interest was of course the Dow Jones, down 0.98%. And you might say, well, how's that even possible when we're not that much down the others? And the answer is XLI. Very rare we've seen the industrials heavily sold off and actually the number one bad performer in the major sectors here, 1.73%. We also had utilities and XLP, consumer staples, both bad as well. Very weird and strange, actually. We usually tend to see, if it's been a bit of a red day, for XLU and XLP to be stronger market sectors because they are, of course, seen as defensive. While I don't like to invest in those at this stage of a cycle, that is usually what you're looking for. Top performing sectors, you can see it, consumer discretionary, communications, and technology out in front. But really, it was a nothing day, and we're still stuck in a range that we'll be talking about soon. I wanted to go into a heavy stat here just to quickly let anyone know that's a new video viewer here. If you've never come to our channel, consider subscribing. Of course, smash that like button, guys. It does help us out. But this bit of information I think is really important and lets us put things in perspective. So we are on month 7 of win streaks from the SP 500 index. Now that's pretty impressive in itself. 7 months is great. But when we think about it, what does this mean? Well, it means that it's very rare that we ever get past a certain amount of monthly wins in a row. 7 to, let's say, 11 is the highest ever. So we're getting into that illustrious category of being very, very close to the number one peak kind of times. We've had it before. In October 17, we had a 10-month win streak. Obviously 13, 7. And you can see until we go back into the 50s, we never had anything over 10. So sometime around these next couple of months, we do expect one negative month. Okay, no, I'm not saying it's massively negative. You can see the negative percentages here, barely anything. However, what it does show us is it shows us a really important factor that even if that did happen, even if we did get a 4% or 5% pullback or 8% and then it came back up and ended up 5% down, if we take a look at the 6-month stat after that, look at this, 93% almost positive gains on the market with an average of 8% almost. This is incredible stats. And when you're thinking about it, it just puts in perspective, you know, the market is an optimistic beast. It generally goes up over time. A lot of you guys in the comments down below just say buy the dip all the time. You're not technically wrong, but but you obviously need to be buying still quality stocks. And you can see there with the indices, they are built to go up over time. And while things can become a little bit shaky and scary, overall, whatever you're seeing, you need to put it in longer term perspective, yeah? It's all about leverage, really, where people lose their money in the shorter term, or fear. Generally leverage, though. Now, leverage can be your friend, and it can be your enemy, especially in the options world. Let's move over here to the VIX, the volatility index. Speaking of leverage, what have we seen? Well, we have had a rise here in the VIX, the fear index. We definitely called this as a community. You guys have big brains. We know September is one of those months that the VIX rises. Whether the market's doing nothing or something, it tends to rise. And look at this, we're already at 18 after hitting just underneath that 16. So anyone that's been trading the VIX, let us know in the comments down below, because you've probably had a couple of good trading sessions here, some nice movement on the way up. So where do we expect the VIX to go? Well, of course, it depends on the SP 500 and whether it breaks the range. We'll talk about that very soon. But it is starting to move up here. Of course, a close underneath 22, I think, on the weekly is the really key point. We haven't seen a close above 21 for a long time, just constantly wicks. So if you're actually looking at bearish stuff, you're looking for this thing to actually hold high, and it has not been able to do so yet. We'll continue to cover it. Speaking of other strange things that are occurring, we saw the dollar index strengthen through the last 24-hour session, and we actually saw a lightning bolt on it. But this is pummeling gold and not so much silver, but definitely the gold trade. If we take a look at the gold trade here, it closed below that 1807 area. You'll notice the price action on the 1 hour here kind of showed us a little bit of long leg doji, little rejection, indecision again, rejection candle here, basically a big rejection off, and then the next candle goes straight through. What do we expect to occur now? Probably tries to come back up, test from the bottom up. So it's going to test this previous resistance support level. It's what we call roll reversal. And there could be some sellers here for gold. So if people are scalping and day trading, this is an area you'll want to dial in on the smaller time frames, see whether there's a turnaround. There's potential short opportunity here. And if you're a long holder, then you're hoping it gets through here, comes down, retests from the top, and then of course moves through. This will be the key zone where the bulls and the bears will fight it out, though, if it does get back up there. We'll move over to silver. Silver, of course, had that nicer breakout in the Friday session. This was our take profit zone that we talked about. Very nice movements. Come back down to support. This is where you hope to see another turnaround from a lightning bolt perspective on the smaller time frames. And silver's still looking pretty nice. This is our trend line. There's a lot going on for it. Let's see how it can handle the next 24 hours. The good thing about this week is we don't have as much news as we generally do. So a lot of these markets are going to be able to actually trade technically rather than just trade off news. Remember, non-farm payrolls is done now. That was a disappointing number. And overall, all these things should hopefully be able to trade technically. It is on support. Previous resistance acts as support. Check the smaller timeframes for more information. Let's talk about one of the best stocks in the market yesterday, and that was, of course, Tesla. Now, was it the best stock percentage-wise? Maybe not, but I was pretty excited for you guys. We saw it during our live stream. Come join us 1 hour before the market opened. We saw it when the market opened, tipped past that 742, and bam, it was off. It may have only gone up $10 by the close, but it got all the way to 760. That's very close to where we were talking about, that 775, 780. I hope this continues now. We've had quite a few days of, some weakness here. We got that nice bullish hammer coming off the resistance we talked about in the weekend video, and then we got that gap and movement up. Good stuff here. I'm hoping that it can go back to the resistance over here, and if it gets past that, wow. Everyone's going to be talking about Tesla then, and you'll be wanting to watch the options. Now, speaking of options, let's firstly talk about the algo flow. What was the flow of nasty Wall Street through the session? Well, good news, guys. You can get this, by the way, 7-day free trial below in our private community if you want to get access to this robot and a few other things. And algo flow versus stock price. So this is basically the flow of Wall Street's trades overall. And you'll notice that that was above the stock price. That's good news. When it's against you, you start to go, well, what exactly is happening? This is where the actual algo flow matches the stock price. In fact, it beats it. That's good, and that's exactly what you want to see. We also saw a huge amount of options getting opened by retail, and that was all around that 750 strike, 755 strike, and 760. These weren't here yesterday. They are opening up massively now with big calls coming through. Will it be let through? We'll have to see it continuously hit new all-time highs. Just watch the price action as it goes through 760. There's a good chance it goes towards that 780, etc., etc. So this will be something that a lot of people watch. So my bullish Tesla, well, yes, I have been for ever since we really broke through this 716. I quite like all of this trading that's gone on here. I like the price action still, and I do hope it comes through and continues to move higher. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, the price doesn't make sense, or they might say the valuation doesn't make sense. I think you've got to ignore the valuation when you're trading, or even you're investing in this stock. You've got to think long-term, or in trading, you've just got to think, what's the price action doing? So we've got our trend line. We know where the bigger stops kind of will be. We also have, our big weekly close that we'd like to see. If we do get a weekly close above this 750, that would be a big deal for Tesla. And I think we'll be watching this closely together throughout the week. Let's take a look at Apple now. Apple had a little bit of a breakout trade on it. We talked about the 155 level. Now, this is where things get interesting because Apple has been confused. I mean, we've always had an aim ever since it broke before for Apple to get to around that 160. You can see the line that we've got here. There's a lot of reasons why we thought it could get to this zone, and it makes sense for it to try to get up here. I mean, even if we took this range here, extrapolated that out, it all kind of points to that 158, 160 line. Why I say it's strange is because the algo flow wasn't really with Apple near the close of the day. In fact, Wall Street sold off a little bit to the retail crowd. So is this a sign of something to come? We're going to start covering Apple on the daily because it is the stock that moves the market. If Apple ends up getting bad sentiment on it, or Microsoft, often the rest of the market can start to dive. They're just such a huge part of course, the major indices. So yeah, algo flow wasn't with it. It wasn't alarming, but it certainly was strange. So the price action's still up. If you're long Apple, you shouldn't really be concerned, but it's something that's that little early warning sign. Let's see if that happens for 2 or 3 days in a row. Another thing that we want to be checking out here is IWM. This is the Russell 2000. Pull back to the 225 will be an interesting zone if you're looking at buying it. Previous resistances, we've seen it kind of swing off that level before. I'm not a huge fan of trading the Russell at this stage, but if you are interested, we've got 230 resistance, 225 support. You guys can clearly see the next zones, 233, and underneath this 220. So we've got that all drawn up for you if you're interested in bringing that into your analysis. Let's move over now to what I think is the most interesting market right now. And you might say, well, why is it interesting if it's stuck in a range? I think it's telling us a really strange story, and that is the futures market. Yes, I said that the futures of the S&P 500. Now, you'll know I'm a big fan of never trading the futures, but this illustrates the trapped zone that we've been discussing for now a full week. And that is long leg doji, which is an indecision candle. Remember, a high and a low and a close at the same price. The market has no idea what it's doing. An inside candle to this, so basically a rejection wick. Another candle that has no idea where it's going. Another long leg doji, this time between that 45.20 zone and 45.50. Then we get the fake market futures day, which hits the 45.50. Then we get the sell off to the 45.20. And now we're sitting on that zone. So we are fully trapped within a neutralized literal channel. If we close below, where do we expect to go? Probably around that 44.80. Why? Previous resistance and support. This will be a key zone for people to look at. It's around a little bit more than this distance of this channel. If we close above 45.50, where do we expect to go? I think about 4,600 makes sense. So in the time of the futures here, we're seeing a little bit of a pickup. But when we go and have a look at the SPX, look at this. Look at the SPX. It's also trapped. It also has those two long leg dojis. And you might say, oh, Tom, look, it's closed underneath the low. And you always say that's decision made. Yeah, I do. So it is underneath the low with the close, but it's pretty damn marginal. This is one where if you were really bearish and you had some sentiment in there and you wanted to follow the price action, you could scale in. I would scale super small on this type of thing. That is super marginal, guys. If the closure was down underneath here, so let's say the closure was like that and was filled in, yeah, I think you could certainly scale towards the short side. Long leg doji, decision made, take it short. If you are looking at this though, I mean, we're talking about a matter of a point or two. It's just not enough information. So this is where you've got to be really careful. Sometimes you're going to see a technical analysis level and you're going to say, oh, it's so marginal, I'm not going to go with that. You're talking about trading against the trend which is already incredibly dangerous in the market. Being a bear ain't easy, guys. It's hard to be a bear in the woods. You don't often get the salmon. You know, the salmon only come for 3 months of the year. And it's just too difficult to go with stuff like this. Bearish is hard, bullish is easy. And that's just the truth of the market. It's always easier being an optimist than being a bearish person. Now, if we are going through that, I just don't think it's enough yet, but hopefully in the next 24 hours, we see a direction. I don't care whether it's long or it's short. I just want to get out of this range. And yeah, I'll be very interested. Which day do you think that we'll be getting out of the range, guys? Is it going to be the Wednesday session, the Thursday session, or the Friday session? Let me know in the comments down below. Let's move over now to the Nasdaq. So we've got the QQQ up here, long leg doji, rejection style candle here. This is the 2-day and then a movement up. Let's move over now to the daily so we can see the difference. See how it's a little bit different all of a sudden? What is true though is we're stuck in a range here as well. I think the S&P might show us the way of what the market really wants to do, but we're near this top. And if we move over to the US 100, you'll actually notice it's tested this top quite a few times. So here it is, resistance, 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 15,700. You'll notice it's trading at 691 now. So this is the one that I think the FANG is going to have a go at breaking. Will we get through here? Next level will be 15.8, 15.9, and 16. I have a feeling that if it does get through, it's going to go for that 16,000 level, and then that might have some problems. Maybe that's where it sells off. But we're still stuck in the range for now, so nothing much we can do, and you guys can clearly see that on the charts. We'll move over now to the crypto world, because a lot of people are probably wondering what just happened in the crypto world. Well, it came down to what I think is a very good whale reload zone. So nasty whales, we've been talking about this 42.5 kind of area for a few points. We had that Wyckoff accumulation. We talked about this level being the key resistance break. It did. And then this is just a standard sell-off, guys. I know it doesn't look standard because we haven't had one in a while, but 20% is well known to be a pullback zone for Bitcoin. So when you read stuff in the news and it says El Salvador, it's such a small amount of money in comparison to the size of the crypto universe. The crypto market capitalization is way bigger. This is some type of manipulation. This is not anything else, in my opinion. I think that we're still looking very, very strong here on the crypto side. And this happens all the time. You know, every single time market comes up, if you are believing in the long side, you get markets going down 20%. It always is around 20%. You only have to be worried when you get those sustained sell-offs that go much worse than 20%. So over here, you know, we get that 20%. We get the rally and then it breaks underneath it. That's when you can be worried. So if you were really going to be worried in crypto, it has to be underneath this zone. Unless it's underneath this zone, why would you care? I mean, realistically, yes, I know people are getting blown out because they're in heavy leverage, but being in leverage in crypto without a stop loss can be quite dangerous. So I'm happy with what's happening. I think it's pretty normal. A lot of crypto people that have been in there for a long time will know this is a fairly normal one. We should start to see some repair over the next couple of days, and I would hope that it repairs fairly quickly. And what you can always tell with these kind of pullbacks is that if they're in strong trends, they generally tend to recover over the next couple of days. You can see here recovery, you can see here recovery, again recovery, and then when it takes a little bit longer, that's when you know it's not as strong for the time being. But I think this is looking like it's recovering. Again, BTC shorts is still quite low. So it's not like the whales are here. Where a lot of people have been pointing to has been the Ethereum shorts. So if we have a look here at the Ethereum shorts, actually let me just write ETH shorts. I think it comes up here. And the ETH shorts have been getting higher and higher. So I haven't done the back study on this for you guys. Maybe someone has and they can let us down in the comments below. But basically, when Ethereum shorts go up, you should be scared maybe of the alt market. And this has been rising now for some time. I don't like to go against the whales. This was probably an early warning sign that something was wrong with Ethereum price. And we did see that one get really smashed. We'll take a look at it in a second. But again, I'm not concerned about the market at this stage. We look at the BTC shorts for the big point. This was a good little pickup here, even though it went lower. That was certainly a pickup. 3,000, also an interesting pickup for Ethereum. And this is exactly where you expect it to find that buying pressure. So hopefully Ethereum comes back with the goods. So does ADA. So does some of the other coins. And is it El Salvador? I don't believe so. I don't think you guys either do. It's just one of those things that happens in the wild west of the crypto market. Thanks so much, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, please remember to subscribe, smash that like button, and we'll see you 1 hour before the market open today. Catch you for now. Bye.